Hello, my name is Gillian Caldwell, and I run a global detective agency working to end the human rights abuse, environmental devastation, and corruption associated with the worldwide trade in natural resources. So what do I mean by that? Well, we helped hasten the decline of the bloody Khmer Rouge by halting the illegal timber trade that was funding their operations. Also, in the last 2 decades, we helped focus the eyes of the world on the scourge of so-called blood diamonds and kickstarted international systems to ensure that diamonds don't fund or fuel violent conflict. We discovered secretive mining deals in the Democratic of Congo that left the US Securities and Exchange Commission to investigate, and ultimately, New York City hedge fund Zift to plead guilty to violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and agree to pay $413 million in settlement. We went undercover here in New York City in an Emmy Award-nominated special with CBS 60 Minutes to reveal just how prepared attorneys in more than a dozen New York City law firms were to turn a blind eye to money laundering and incorporate anonymous companies to enable it. And more recently, we discovered a timber trade, an illegal timber trade, stretching from Papua New Guinea to China and back here to major retailers in the United States. But today I'm going to tell you a single story, a story about how open data analysis and our investigations helped reveal the people behind the largest natural resource heist in modern history. This story takes us to Myanmar, also known as Burma, a country very much in the news today. Now, Myanmar has long been ruled by a military junta. Today, it's led as a quasi-democracy by Aung San Suu Kyi. But even today, 25% of the seats in Myanmar's parliament are held by the military, and they control key ministries. They have an effective veto over constitutional change. Myanmar is a natural resource-driven economy, depending on products such as timber and rubber, minerals, and gas. And the military and their cronies have been given very lucrative business interests. If you were to have a local beer or smoke a local cigarette in Myanmar today, the chances are you would be funding a military company. So this brings me to Jade and this big heist. Global Witness had worked in Burma or Myanmar in the past, but what caught our attention with respect to this investigation was a report by Harvard and Proximity Designs that revealed that the estimated value of jade exports in 2011 was $8 billion. And it wasn't clear where that money was going. Now, jade is an incredibly valuable gemstone. Imperial jade, such as this, goes for many millions of dollars per kilogram. In fact, this necklace sold for over $27.4 million in a four-way bidding war. And as luck or misfortune would have it, the very richest jade deposits in the world lie buried in the ground underneath Kachin State in northern Myanmar, bordering China, which drives jade to those excessive heights because of its elite status. Since its independence from Britain in 1948, successive military regimes in Myanmar have exerted control over resource-rich areas of the country. And you can see here that jade mining in Kachin is indeed a very big business. But how big, nobody really knew until we released our report in 2015, which revealed that in that year alone, the estimated value of the jade mining business was as much as $31 billion. That would have been 48% of the entire gross domestic product of Myanmar if it hadn't winded up in someone else's pockets. Meanwhile, people surrounding these mines are, of course, living in dire poverty.
Oh, cabai calek deh, homa benet pitan jauh deh, homa beneting thola pilihan berlaut aneh hat fete deh. Miu caro ani nan cane ya deh, bawa coba ruga mi quick go mi ya ubo no. Coba ruga deh keba jing sapa beda.
Lara ta mà đồ đi lên nào, đồ sẽ ta đã là về mà, làm mi là vợ, nên đồ cô lúc nào biết ta lại về bà nhà này là sao về mà chăm rồi cô lúc nào cháu này là.
Ta mà đồ vậy, cháu sinh lúc nào mà, nhà gì bảo người này số nào cũngတွေ့ရတယ် စစ်တပ်ကကျောက်စိမ်းလုပ်ငန်းကိုကာကွယ်နေတယ်ဒါကိုထိန်းချုပ်နိုင်ဖို့ကြိုးစားနေတယ်ဆိုတာထင်ရှားပေါ်နေစေပါတယ်
So, as you can see, the human and environmental costs of jade mining are heart-wrenching, but there are significant social costs as well. For example, methamphetamine abuse and heroin abuse are rife against the miners. Jade also is a source of and provides funding for violent conflict that has displaced more than 100,000 people in Kachin since 2011 and left thousands dead. It's also the cause of landslides, such as this one, which have killed many hundreds more. This brings me to the data, though. How was it that we were able to confirm what people had long suspected about who was behind and benefiting from this $31 billion enterprise? Well, it was a painstaking investigation and involved undercover work and more than 400 interviews, but it also involved the use of open data and a specially designed computer program. We started with maps, publicly available maps, and some that we had photographed surreptitiously inside government offices. And those maps told us the companies to whom jade mining licenses had been offered. But that didn't tell us who was behind the companies. Next, we had to go to the Burmese company register. This was a searchable database of thousands of companies in Myanmar that enabled us to get access to director and shareholder information, as well as national ID numbers, which is so important in a country like Burma, which has very few unique names. However, this database was painstakingly slow to work with. It didn't have the search function we needed, and it would have taken us weeks to figure out what was going on. So we worked with Open Corporates, which is an open source database of more than 130 million companies worldwide. And we designed a special computer program, and we downloaded the entire Burmese company register, took it offline. And then we're able to automate the process of searching and piecing this information together. We captured other information online, for example, information about government sanctions lists, which we scraped from government websites. And we found archived copies of newspapers, which included the names of candidates for office and their national ID numbers. And this helped us paint a picture, and it wasn't a pretty one. The people behind this industry were, not surprisingly, people like General Sway. In fact, a who's who of military generals, men with guns, Chinese interests, and US-sanctioned drug lords. Hidden behind obscure companies with proxy owners, these elites are reaping vast profits, even as the people of Kachin are literally digging the wealth out from underneath their feet. When our report went live in late 2015, it received widespread media coverage globally and in Myanmar. In fact, in Myanmar, there were various newsstands that were downloading the Burmese version of the report and selling it, which is a little form of micro-enterprise and some cold comfort under the circumstances. But this isn't just about headlines. You know, we investigate, we expose, and we advocate. And so in this report, we called for the government to suspend jade mining licenses until this business is to provide data critical to how the industry operates, to ensure that jade is a central tenet and piece of the conversation with respect to peace negotiations, and to conduct social and environmental impact assessments. It's been just over a year, but working closely with allies like the Kachin Networking Development Group, we've achieved some important results. The Myanmar government did suspend jade mining licenses. They formed a gemstone policy working group, which includes civil society, something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. A gemstone policy, which includes some of our recommendations regarding open data, is making its way through the parliament. And a social and environmental impact assessment has been ordered to see if it's even possible to mine jade sustainably in Kachin. This is just one of more than 15 investigations and campaigns we are active and engaging in around the world. Oftentimes we work through exposés to drive advocacy, and other times behind the scenes. In China, for example, we're working directly with the government to draft their due diligence guidelines for sourcing rubber and timber globally. In Afghanistan, we're trying to ensure that the Taliban doesn't continue to fund itself off the back of the lapis lazuli mines. We're working to keep the forest, the lungs of our planet, standing, protected from illegal logging in places like the Congo Basin, the Amazon Basin, and Southeast Asia. And keep your eyes peeled for a blockbuster new investigation on corruption here in the United States, coming to you next month in partnership with a major news network. In a world turned absolutely upside down, we've got to turn it right side up. And in a world of so-called fake news, together we can ensure the truth prevails. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian, for that really powerful presentation, which I think is a great example of why we have the Sustainable Development Goals, because issues that affect the lives of people, the environment, and the overall enabling environment, they all should be treated together and in an integrated way. We have time for one quick question from the audience. So who has a really sharp question for Gillian?
You're speechless.
Well, I will ask a question then. Okay. I mean, the SDGs are, of course, about the lives of people. Can you just talk a little bit about how fighting corruption really affects people's day-to-day lives and kind of the overall empowerment that has happened because of this work that you've been able to do and the exposing of these kinds of issues?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, you know, the $31 billion behind this industry would have been 46% of the GDP. Actually 48% of the GDP, it would have been 46 times the entire government spending on health that year. We discovered, you know, another major corruption deal off the coast of Nigeria that involved Shell and Eni, and that once again, you know, multiple times the health and education budget spending. So when you're essentially absconding with the natural resource wealth of these countries, those natural resources become a curse rather than a blessing, drive violent conflict, drive despotic regimes, and there's Western enablers, is our point, involved in this entire machinery. It drives aid dependency, and it deprives people of the opportunity not just to survive, but to thrive.
Great. Well, thank you again for being here, and keep up the good work.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.